Hello
Hi.
and welcome to this week's
Yes.
episode. Hey, so I'm
Hello.
Jay and my partner in crime, Hussein, and we're here to try and stay sane with this week's religious news. So
So
let's jump right in.
before that, how are you
Okay.
doing?
Oh, me, I'm all right. I'm just a little bit tired today. I just been feeling a bit lethargic all day. I think I need to go to bed
Okay.
early tonight and just have a good nap. How are you?
Yeah, doing fine. Pretty well.
You're doing fine?
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
All right, so let me jump into the first news story. Okay, so
Okay.
over the past week, Israel has now launched attacks on Syria and Iran. Analysts are watching closely and hoping a wider escalation can be avoided, with Iran's leaders saying that the Israeli attacks should not be, quote, exaggerated or downplayed, and we will keep an eye on this situation as it develops over the coming weeks. So, any thoughts that you have on this, Hussein, about the launching attacks on Iran? Like, do you think this is deliberately provoking Iran and going to escalate the situation?
I don't think so because if you look at how this whole situation began in last October 7th, the role of Iran was pretty well evident by engaging in this proxy war, um, directing other two parties like the Houthis and the Hezbollah along with Hamas into this war. So that was well evident in the past 1 year. We have seen how they were doing this. So right now, when Israel is trying to retaliate in a manner that they are not attacking any civilians or any such civilian establishments, they are just targeting the military equipments or military points of importance. So that shows their clear intentions. That is how they are looking at this whole problem.
Yeah.
So they
That's the
want
thing.
peace.
The
Yeah.
optics are the key thing, right? Because neither Israel nor Iran can be seen to be doing nothing. Because if we just sit back and do nothing, that invites more attacks. But then to retaliate invites further retaliations and escalations, which is what everyone is fearing, that the whole Middle East is just going to get embroiled in a major war. So
Yeah, but the involvement was pretty clear. Like when they were doing this pager attack, you might have noticed how this
yeah,
Iranian ambassador to Lebanon um, was caught in that act. Like one of the pagers was with him, in fact. So that shows the close association between the Iranian political leaders and their top government officials with the terrorists who is present in Lebanon with the Hezbollah. So that's pretty clear. So when Israel is making a point or trying to say to the world that they are targeting the terrorists or they're trying to stop the terrorist attacks, they are getting even more reasons to prove that. So just like the pager attack proved, now they are even showing many other examples. So I think they won't be proved otherwise. Like they will always have a point. As far as we have seen until now, that's the case. So I don't think there will be something against them. Yeah,
sure. All right. So as I said, we will monitor the situation and we'll keep reporting on it over the
yeah.
coming weeks. So all right, so our next related to Gaza is again, as we report every week, the U.S. Secretary of State has told Israeli leaders that, quote, much more needs to be done to get humanitarian aid to civilians in northern Gaza, raising possible consequences under U.S. law if Israel fails to comply. So, yeah, so the U.S. is starting to draw a much harder line with Israel's actions regarding to humanitarian aid, threatening to, potentially cut them off because of their statutes. There's a good quote from Noam Chomsky. Noam Chomsky said years ago in one of his articles that, you know, as America's leading client state, Israel inherits the will to act with impunity. And so now we can see under the Biden administration, and particularly with the Secretary of State, that they're really trying to rein Israel in and to stop the civilian casualties and get the aid through. So, and I think that's going to
Mm.
become a significant issue. So,
Yeah.
okay. Also, with the bombings in Lebanon, Israel carried out airstrikes on the historic Lebanese city of Tyre, which was only the bombings were only a few hundred meters from UNESCO World Heritage listed Roman ruins. So that's not good. So hopefully, I'm glad that the ruins weren't destroyed, but that's a good thing.
Mm.
Staying one more story on Israel. So the Israeli ex-security advisor Etzion, who served four Israeli prime ministers, was deputy head of the country's National Security Council, has warned the IDF might be committing war crimes in northern Gaza and suggests that officers and troops should reject any illegal orders. Etzion stated he is worried for the civilians and in his and the people in his country, and he says, and I quote, "There is a very dangerous erosion of norms. There is a very widespread sense of revenge, of rage." End quote. Further, one of Britain's most prominent war crimes lawyers, Professor Philip Sands, stated that while Israel has a right to defend itself, it was now violating international law. Quoting Sands, "It has to be proportionate. It has to meet the requirements of international humanitarian law. It must distinguish between civilians and military targets. It does not allow you to use famine as a weapon of war. It doesn't allow you to forcibly deport or evacuate large numbers of people. So it's impossible to see what's going on now in Gaza, as it's impossible to see what happened on October 7th and not say war crimes are screaming out." End quote. So,
Yeah, we can deviate to a news from Kenya. That's from Nairobi. Have you seen that? There is a pastor and family burned alive in Islamist attack after leading
no,
Muslims to Christ. So
no, I did not see that news story.
yeah, that's something from Kenya. Mother of three beaten, burned with acid for converting to Christianity. So apostasy is a grave mistake in Islam, and it will be punished pretty well. So that's how we always say about this, and we always say about the blasphemy laws in Islam, which is the most notorious or the most cruel rule which can exist today in this modern world. And it's not just about the rule being present in the book or which is being prophesized or which is being mentioned there, but it is practiced as a rule in some of the countries, in Islamic countries. So now this happened in Kenya, and this occurred in a village. Islamist villagers in eastern Uganda burned a pastor. Oh, it's not in Kenya, it's in Uganda. So the report is in Kenya. Uganda burned a pastor and his family to death after he led three Muslims to faith in Christ. This is what happened. Pastor Viri Mukisa, 25-year-old wife Annette Namugaya, and their two daughters, 7-year-old Judith and 4-year-old Sylvia, died when the assailants set fire to their home shortly before 3 a.m. on October 13th. That's what happened. So tragic. This
Yeah.
took place in Kibale village. Okay, so when the three young Muslims converted to Christ, my brother started receiving threatening messages, it's in quote, that he should stop any contact with the three young converts and that the act committed is against the teaching of Islam to not join the free religion of infidels. This is what is being told. So we rushed to the scene of the incident and found the house torched and the 5 bodies burned beyond recognition. But see, when you read this or when you listen to this news, it's very much clear that they were burned to death. So, as per Islamic law, what it is mentioned is that there's a hadith or the saying of a prophet. That is something like a few people were, they apostatized and they were burned as a punishment. So this news came to one of the caliphs, that is Ali. So what he responded was that, who asked you to burn them? Because burning is not the punishment that Prophet has asked us to do. We should have killed them, but we should have de-throated them. That's the punishment that we should do. Killing is for Allah. We shouldn't, sorry, burning is for Allah. We shouldn't burn. So you did the right thing, but you chose the wrong punishment. So
Wrong
you,
method.
so this is
No,
how
they're dead
Islam
either
teaches.
way.
Yeah. So
Yeah, that's
even
and
though
they
they
and they
don't
killed
have,
and they
sorry.
killed the pastor's they killed this
family.
pastor's family too, not
Yeah,
just the pastor, but his family. So, so
yes,
what
that's
is
it.
what do the hadiths say about killing the innocent?
Because in infidels, you can. There's an incident where the Islamist or the conquest of Prophet Muhammad happened to a Jewish village, a Jewish tribe, and the companions were asking about the Prophet that they have women and they have children among them. So how about killing them? What's your rule on that? So Prophet was saying this way that they are also part of the infidel. So you need not bother about that. So if you are targeting someone, especially if infidels, it doesn't matter whether they are children or whether they are women or whether any old people. That doesn't matter. They are among them. That's what Prophet teaches. So no questions asked.
And
You are free
I
to kill.
presume the Ugandan police have arrested these people and will be trying them.
Uh, I don't think so. I think for the news, if we go dig deep, um, no mentioning is there. Maybe in the
So,
coming days there might happen
okay,
because less likely.
okay. All
Yeah.
right. Well, let's maybe we can report on that next week if they get arrested. So,
Okay.
okay. Anything else on your side? Or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are
Oh,
you mentioning about the attack
yeah.
that
That's my
happened in
my
Turkey?
next
Yeah.
one. So,
Yeah. Please go on.
also in the Mideast, the Turkish Air Force
Mm.
has struck Kurdish militant targets in Iraq and Syria, apparently in retaliation for an attack on a Turkish state-run defense company that killed 5 people and wounded 20 others. So it's not just Israel and Lebanon and Hezbollah and Iran. Now Turkey's is bombing the Kurds in Syria and Iraq. So we've got Israel bombing Syria, we've got Israel bombing Lebanon, we've got Israel bombing Iran, and now we have Turkey bombing Iraq and Syria. So things in
Mm.
the region are not looking good, so to
Mm.
say the least. Um, in the U.S., both Harris and Trump have been pandering to religious voters in the Bible Belt state of Georgia.
Mm.
So, we know that the Bible thumpers tend to go with Trump. So I'm not sure if Kamala is going to be successful there or not. But good luck to her if she can court some of the religious vote away from Trump and this Project 2025. So,
Mm.
okay. Um, in the UK, the Anglican Bishop of Chelmsford has noted that the Church of England is in a quote state of panic and fear and deep anxiety over the plummeting numbers of English attending church, and they should stop being obsessed and face the reality of the decline. The statistics quoted in the article I read that in the post-COVID era 169,000 fewer weekly worshippers are no longer attending Church of England services since the end of COVID from the pre-COVID
Mm.
numbers. For those of you who may be aware of what liberation theology is, the founder, the Peruvian priest and founder of Catholic liberation theology, has passed away at 96. Just briefly, liberation theology emerged, I believe, in the 70s. It may have been late 60s, but early 70s. Came partly out of the Second Vatican Council and the directives to be more pastoral in the church's approach. Now, as many of you may remember, or some of you may not even know, so Pope John Paul II, who was from Poland, which was under the Warsaw Pact under the Soviet Union, was very, very anti-communist. So the Catholic Church, even though liberation theology was essentially what is preached in the Bible, take care of the poor, because of the seeming links to socialism, Pope John Paul um, kind of cracked down on it. But then in the 80s and 90s, I think they started to see the error of their ways. That hey, the church actually says we're supposed to be ministering to the poor, so that liberation, some of the handcuffs were taken off liberation theology. So it is a contentious issue if you talk to some people from South America. So it basically took off in Central and South America. It's really you see liberation theology much more in the poorer countries, where the Catholic Church has a much stronger grip on people. So, as I was saying, that the founder of that has now passed away. Now, my last story. So, this is going to touch on the debate that Hussein and I had last week about the ongoing diplomatic rift between Canada and India.
Mm.
And Hussein mentioned last week that he thinks his government is behind this. So this is what was in the paper today. So the row has escalated between Canada over the killing of a Sikh separatist last year in Canada. Canadian police officials have made more accusations. Now, this goes right back to your point, Hussein, when we talked previously last week. You mentioned that the UN staff in Gaza
Mm.
were complicit in the October 7th attack. We know the Saudi government uh, committed a murder inside Turkey, inside their embassy of Jamal Khashoggi, inside their embassy. Now Canadian officials are accusing Indian diplomats and consular staff of participating in a criminal network run by a notorious Indian gangster. In a public inquiry, Prime Minister Trudeau said that Canada could not, quote, accept this fundamental violation of its sovereignty, end quote. And Canada's foreign minister has put India's remaining diplomats on notice, threatening expulsion from the country if they do put any more lives at risk. So
Yeah.
that is it from my news for this week. So it
Y-
seems that your government has been
Yeah.
up to some naughty things with my government.
Yeah. So I think we missed mentioning about this Ankara. The at least 5 people got killed in an attack in Turkish aviation company. So um, the Turkey Defense Ministry announced late on Wednesday that airstrikes had been launched at Kurdish rebel targets in northern Iraq and northern Syria. So
No,
five
I
people
did
were,
mention. Yeah, I did.
yeah,
I said it
five
was
people
part
were,
that was part of the bombing of the Kurds in Syria. They
yeah.
bombed them. It was a result of an
So
attack on a Turkish defense system that killed five.
yeah, so that's one issue. And finally, we got a news which is just hours ago. We are seeing it here. That's about the shooting of a Jewish man who was heading to a synagogue by a man shouting Allahu Akbar. That's what we are seeing here. Chicago, in Chicago.
In
A
Chicago.
Jewish man on way to synagogue shot by attacker shouting Allahu Akbar. That's the news headline.
Yeah, this is
So,
breaking news. This is like just
yeah,
happened
kind of.
recently. Okay, okay,
But
that's scary.
shouting Allahu Akbar and doing something is no more a breaking news. That's something
Yeah,
so normal these days.
yeah, yeah.
So yeah, so the only thing is whether the when you go through the news article, you can find people arguing whether that person was how the that person was identified as a Jew, whether he was wearing something that identifies him as a Jew, as an Orthodox Jew, or someone else, and the use of this Allahu Akbar. So more details are yet to come, but this is what we have got right now. The shooting happened on Shabbat, following the Jewish holiday of Shemini. I spoke with Larry Snelling, the superintendent, who assured me that there is no more known threats and has committed the full support of the Chicago Police Department to ensure the safety of our community. That's how the Jewish community responds. So this is what happened. That's an attacker who shot down a Jewish man. So anti-Semitism.
Okay.
This is a a wild situation which is ever growing, which is part of this religion. Both the religion they have some sort of reasons to say about this, but for Islam there's a clear mentioning about this anti-Semitism, and they are still carrying it forward. They are not ready to leave it behind and move forward and to live in a modern life. They're not ready to do that.
Some of them, many are. It's the zealots that are like, we're
Y-
seeing a normalization of relations between Saudi, between Egypt and Qatar,
Yeah, I agree
with
to that.
Israel.
I agree to that. But
So,
even when you come to our country in India, in the state where I'm living, you can listen to uh, these teachings of anti-Semitism happening in our everyday madrasas. So this is a
and
part of
the authorities there aren't cracking down on it.
no, it's even
Okay.
teaching the killing of apostates. So who is catching them? And
And this
recently
is
there was a
supposedly in a secular state, and the police are doing
yeah,
nothing against this hate speech.
but the department is doing something, and there was a rule that came up a few weeks ago that is something about closing down the madrasas which is being funded by the government, and the reasons cited were about this, that is the funding, the secular funds going towards a religion, And other than that, some of the teachings that's meant part of this mother's education is anti-secular, anti coexistence. So that should be closed down. That's what they were asking to do. But what came next is a protest, not from the Muslim society, the community, but even from other secular parties, the so-called secular parties. They were supporting the madrasas, and they were even saying that madrasas are teaching only good things. So
Yeah,
they
okay.
haven't they haven't even attended a single class in a madrasa, and they are even telling us who, as ex-Muslims, we come out after listening, after learning all these things in the madrasas. Like, you, when you try to befriend a person, you should make sure that he is a Muslim. That's what we are taught in our madrasas. So when you apostatize, you will be killed. This is what is taught in madrasas. If you are missing out your prayers, the obligatory 5 times prayers, you could be killed. This is what is mentioned in the madrasas, and many other things, like you are not supposed to engage in other festivals of other religions. Like, you are not supposed to cut a cake on a Christmas day, or some other local festivals like Onam or some other Diwali. Now Diwali is going on here. The holidays and preparations are on. You are not supposed to do that. So for a Muslim, there always comes a teaching which is part of this normal madrasa teachings, which is being given to this or propagated onto this normal Muslim community. And yes, you are right when you say this. Only a few among them take it so serious. That's true. But the problem is most of them know what it is being taught here. But only problem is whether only thing is that whether they take it serious or not. Those who take it serious, they are a problem to the country and to the people. That's what we are saying. So
Yeah.
there's a chance for every Muslim to be a jihadi. That's what we always say. So every Muslim you take, only two options are there. Either he can be a jihadi, or he could become an ex-Muslim. That's what we always say. The only thing is whether he is learning Islam or not. If he is just remaining ignorant about what is mentioned in Islam, he can be a good person. But the problem is, if he is not realizing even at some later point in its life, he could be triggered, or that desensitization is not happening, so he could be triggered into becoming a more extremist Muslim. So we must do these actions, continue these actions of explaining Islam and mentioning about the problems within Islam, so that when someone tries to trigger him with this anti-Islamic rhetorics and saying that everyone is Islamophobic and your religion is in danger, that desensitized Muslim won't become an extremist, or he will just stay there. Okay, I know this. I have listened to all this, so that's not a big deal. It's just like another religion. That position will be easier for him to take. That's what we always visualize while doing all this. So yeah, this is what it is. Anti-Semitism is part of madrasa education. Yeah,
And hopefully the state will crack down on it. So
yeah. It's changing. Obviously, it's changing, but we need to keep on doing this. Then only the change will be reaching it to an excess extent that more and more people will be able to come out of this. That's the real goal.
God,
Yeah,
God willing, inshallah.
in Shadinga,
Yeah.
we have this
Okay,
dinga.
well, hey, okay, well, that
Yeah,
is it for the news
that's
for
it.
this week. So thank you
Bye bye.
everybody for tuning in. I hope it was informative, and we'll see everybody next week. Okay,
Bye.
take care.
Peace out.
Bye bye.
Yeah, take care.